for the sake of triple checking that I am in fact recording. Yes, it says recording and it's got a timer. Okay. I'm gonna have to be like really anal about anal. I'm gonna be really anal about checking whether I'm actually recording because hello audience, we lost some footage because I'm a boomer at this point.
Boomer.
And somehow OBS didn't save that last part, but that's okay. We're gonna do it again. We're just that dedicated to the craft.
That's one way to put it, I guess.
I do love The Craft. That is a great movie.
Oh yeah. So and we even have a little switch up for this part 2. We are swapping one gay for another. So we ditched Gemini, we threw him out of the van, drove over him, and then picked up this hooker on the side of the road. What's your name?
Gabbols.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
$5.
For what?
Everything.
Oh. Nice.
Well, $5 isn't going to buy you crack in this economy.
Disagree.
It's not going to buy you very good crack.
Okay, agreed.
Like it's the very like low grade, like the shady shit.
Yeah, as opposed to the high class crack.
Yeah, you got the fancy white man's cocaine. But I digress.
Yeah, the stuff you bring out when your parents are over, you know.
I'm gonna sit a little further back from my mic because I think I was again assaulting my microphone. We're gonna try not to do that. No microphone abuse on this podcast. So let's continue with introductions for people who are new, starting with Tennyson.
Oh, well, hi everyone. I'm Lord Tennyson's pipe. Full name. Fun fact, this podcast was my idea, whether you believe it or not.
Well.
A collaborative effort, certainly, but I was the one who came up with the idea, and these guys were happy enough to dedicate their time and vocal cords and brain cells to this project. So I don't consider this my podcast as much as our podcast, comrades.
Ooh.
But anyway, it's my bit.
Very nice. Gabbols, you can give any more details about yourself?
It's about 2 a.m. right now.
Ooh.
Doing good. I've got my coffee, got my beer, ready to go.
Very nice. And Danimal.
Hey, yeah, I just booked my cabin at Milo's Camp No Homo, and we'll see how that turns out. You know, hopefully in a month I'll be normal.
Yeah, and then we'll have to change the title of the show because this is 3 Homos and a Pussy. We are wrapping up Disney's culture war against gay kids, starting at part 3, which I think is just about where we lost all the footage to time and space and infinity. Rest in peace.
Inshallah.
So I guess I will mostly try to push the video along, and then anyone can pause to interject. Oh, does anyone have a good summary of the findings we had the last time we looked at this video?
Well, from the last, I think we recorded the first part, last week or the week before?
Yeah.
And basically, it was something, gay kid representation, not good enough. Please, multinational corporation, pander to my whims. Meanwhile, same multinational corporation regularly censoring out LGBT and black characters for the Chinese and other markets.
Yeah, I think that about.
So yeah, basically, it was a man petitioning a multinational corporation that does not know of his existence, petitioning that multinational to pander to him and people like him, because I don't know.
And he was going off on if prepubescent kids can have gay romantic feelings before they hit puberty and kind of realize they're gay, I guess. He had a bone to pick with that.
Did we debunk it?
I don't know if we debunked it.
Okay.
We talked about it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's anything to debunk. I mean, I don't think that kids really have
no debunking in this video.
debunking.
Sad. Okay, but
Exact-
if we
We're not exactly Snopes fact checkers, so
Aw,
we can't really.
if only we had that status.
Reality
Gabble,
can do whatever I want.
So Gabble, since you're coming in at part 3 here, what are your thoughts on gay Disney children?
I wish they'd stop.
Stop
like being
what?
gay
Oh, stop being gay. Oh, okay.
in general. Yeah.
I see. That's a...
There's something about gay fish and pandering and stuff. I don't really know.
All right, well, let's dive right into part 3, a creeping normal.
Yes, I know the queer folks and many of our allies have been...
Uh-oh.
I hear echo.
Someone's echoing. Who doesn't have headphones in?
There was something I was thinking about last time that we were talking about where it's kind of the history and the portrayal of like gay relationships in movies and how they really are just in general in real life kind of different from the heterosexual relationships because there's not that kind of same history there or anything like that you can pull from where people can really see that and kind of identify with that. It is a new thing, so it's I don't know. I don't know if that can really be portrayed in film effectively right now to the point that he likes it. Because it's not the same. Like you can't just take a heterosexual relationship and just swap it and make it gay. Like that doesn't work. It's a different kind of thing. It has a different tenor, a different tone, a different beat
I don't know.
to it.
You know, all the fan fiction that I read is pretty much just that. It's pretty much just replace girl with boy, and that's it. The end.
Yeah.
They just act like completely different people, and it's fine.
Yeah, it's kind of not what it's like. Just saying.
clamoring for representation, but even with our staunchest of allies, we make up far from the majority of moviegoers. And while many Disney fans are likely supportive of queer rights, there are many who rush to offer Disney the usual defense. The Fish Boys can't be gay. This is a movie for children. Maybe if they were a few years old, or maybe 16, then they could be gay. Why does everything...
That seems rather reasonable to me, I think. And I think the same can be applied to heterosexual relationships perfectly.
Well, yeah.
easily.
I mean, if you're showing your two main underage characters having a romance, I mean, wouldn't you want them to be a little older?
Yeah, that makes perfect
yeah.
sense.
Like, did you guys ever see Moonrise Kingdom?
I did not.
I didn't. It looked like it had some questionable...
Yeah, I mean, it's the typical Wes Anderson fare where, you know, what he does. But there's like, yeah, there is like an awkward romance between the boy and the girl, and they like undress in front of each other, and it's prevented me from rewatching that movie, honestly, because it's so uncomfortable. It's not played as uncomfortable. It's played as like they're uncomfortable with each other, but it's played as like cutesy romantic, but it's just so weird.
Is it more or less uncomfortable than the child gangbang at the end of Stephen King's It?
I've never read the book, so. But from what I understand, that it's not done. I don't know. He was on a lot of coke, so.
It's true. You know, maybe we should just read that chapter on stream right now. All right.
Oh God, no!
I'm not going to risk, you know, the FBI showing up.
I mean, it's like the whole cuties thing. Like, I never saw it, but I understand that, like, yeah, having kids do. I mean, and that's explicitly sexual thing, so I guess that's a little different than a romance. But I mean, it's uncomfortable to see kids in that situation. I don't think that's typically something that should be normalized.
Here's my hot take about cuties. Okay,
Oh,
cuties,
God.
cuties, I think was well intentioned, but it was in the wrong medium. As a written work, it would have made more sense. As a movie, it implicates itself in its own moral system. Because if the movie is trying to say, you know, sexualizing children is wrong, well, in the process of making the movie, you sexualize children. So you're doing the thing that you said we shouldn't do.
You
Which
can't really make
obviously muddies the entire point. So it's a failed attempt at making that message. But if I read a novel called Cuties and it was about these girls who, like, little girls who watch porn together and learn sexual dances and go on some, like, sexual dance troupe thing, and by the end they realize, you know, this isn't what I want, then it would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have the same problems reading something like that.
making a film out of it just makes it more exploitative.
Yeah. And of course,
Well,
I mean, the thing that kicked off the whole controversy was how Netflix advertised it, which was completely like, yay, we're dancing, it's fun, and it just what I think the director was going for was totally lost in the advertising campaign.
Yeah, it's like advertising Basketball Diaries as like a coming of age story.
Right.
But yeah, I understand the Cuties hate. I do genuinely think the director meant something different, but chose the absolute wrong venue to accomplish it.
Okay. And we're kind of getting away because I don't think that Disney were really worrying about sexual exploitation.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still just the romantic aspect of two underage characters is just, I don't know. I think we talked about last time if kids really even care about that or glom onto it. And it's strange just to see for like an adult viewer of it, just child romance in the Disney schmaltzy way. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
And to be fair, I think this movie, I haven't watched it. I think the movie featured a male-female. Like the little boy was in love with some girl. I should probably read up on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they were, if it was like Frozen where they're just good friends. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything have to be about making things gay. Can't you just let kids be kids?
Go home, James. I have to go home.
At this point, Disney doesn't even need to defend its own lack of diversity because they have an audience making arguments that Disney itself could not officially make without getting ripped apart by GLAAD and the HRC. A lot of these people are like
Hillary Rodham Clinton.
I know. What's Hillary got to do with this?
Oh, was that Hillary he was referencing?
No, HRC's Human Rights Campaign, I think.
Ah, okay.
But also
But
the same initials are for Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Is it not? Is it not funny that those two share acronyms?
Sure,
I mean, I would argue that the Hillary Rodham Clinton is the inverse of Human Rights Campaign, but that's another story for another time.
likely very much of the right mind about gay rights, gay families, gay acceptance. However, while they may also watch Trixie and Katya on YouTube, they hold the belief that there is a time and a place for gay stuff, and Disney is just not the right place. I would ask why exactly.
Do you guys watch Trixie Mattel and Katya?
Who?
I have no clue who those are.
No.
They're two drag queens on YouTube, and they're famous for RuPaul's Drag Race and their own makeup sets and their own kind of music career and a bunch of other stuff in that. But their whole shtick is that they're very, very adult. They're like not kid appropriate whatsoever. Like the topics they cover, not very kid appropriate whatsoever.
What is with this guy and even the other two that we covered who were like, yeah, kids love RuPaul. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's so weird
that children love drag queens and I've never heard of a child saying, oh yeah, I want to watch RuPaul.
And like drag queens are like notoriously like sexual. Like that's the whole like raunchy. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Raunchy.
Because
like that's kind of
is entertainment for gay people all the time.
It's supposed to be like adult entertainment for like gay men and women, grown ass adults.
Well,
It's not. It's not like it's not a family friendly thing, really. It's highly eroticized.
Yeah,
And I
and
don't see how
drag.
you would put that into. I don't see how you can get that. I don't see how you can make something that's so heavily eroticized family friendly, quote unquote.
Yeah, and like drag started in like burlesque houses. Like that's kind of where that art form started. Which, by the way, drag also started as blackface, which I'm surprised that nobody's
Well,
latched onto yet.
I know.
Surprised that
Wow.
hasn't been a thing yet.
But it
I'm
would
gonna
be
have to
like
search up pictures of that.
it would be like taking kids to like a can dance in France, like
Yeah.
some sort of some nightclub in
People go see the
Paris or
Rockettes in New York. The Rockettes are kind of like can. No, am I wrong?
yeah, but
I don't.
but I think the point
I
of
don't
the
watch
Rockettes
women
is
kick legs. I don't know. I'm not. Not
He's
up
like,
on
point of
what
the
is
that.
that?
Rockettes. The point of the Rockettes, I think, is to like it's not really to titillate. It's just spectacle. It's just look at all these people doing a synchronized dance in gaudy costume. Whereas with a can dancers, it's almost a complete. It's almost not really an implication as much as it is completely overt that yeah it's titillating, because women lift up their petticoats and whatever and their bloomers or whatever to show their
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 ankles?
delicately clad ankles and their thighs. Oh no.
Ooh,
Quelle brûleur, quelle torture. Anyway,
that sounds spicy. Let's watch that instead.
it'd be a much better time than watching this.
Luca, boy, is too young to be gay. I knew I was gay when I was 10. This is no doubt due to the conflation between same-gender attraction and sex itself. Which, you wouldn't know this from looking at the way our culture has this discussion, but they are absolutely not the same thing. As a gay child, I didn't want to suddenly put on a full face of makeup and vogue my way into a bathhouse. Believe it or not, the psychological development among gay people happens
Gross.
at the same rate as straight people. We want to start having sex roughly at the same time as our straight peers. It's just that, given that there are still elements of taboo around gayness, we also reject the taboo stigma of virginity. So we're more likely to start going at it when our straight peers still want to keep their legs closed for Jesus.
Okay, let's talk about that. Is that true?
I call attention to the fact that somewhere midway through this video, he switched to filming entirely in a Dutch angle.
Is he not
Way to
still
change
What?
the subject, Henny.
It's like,
Like,
oh,
That's,
eventually
like-
it's just gonna keep going, isn't it? It's gonna keep
Midway-
going more and more until we flip all the way upside down.
midway through this, he's just switched to that weird slanted point of view. It's like it's like
It's metaphor.
it's low budget Battlefield Earth.
You reminded me of that movie.
The movie shot almost entirely in Dutch angles.
It's good stuff. I think Thor was also heavily Dutch angled.
Oh yeah, it was.
That's where I learned about it. It's Red Letter Media talking about Thor.
Oh.
So
Okay.
what point did he just make? That
He said that gay kids have less of a taboo around virginity, and so that's why they start going at it at a younger age.
I don't. I wouldn't say that that's. I just don't think that's necessarily correct. I think that's sort of a very broad, general statement to make. For one thing,
Is it possibly true that I'm doubting like lesbians lose their virginity very early? I don't know. It
I
seems less
I
likely
guess
to
it
me.
might. I guess it might be true for like a certain group of gay guys, but I don't. I just don't know if there's any way to argue that in a way so that it applies to all of or even the majority of gay people. I just don't think that's necessarily a thing that you can
Gabbols,
tack onto the majority of
Gabbols,
people.
how long did you keep your legs closed for Jesus?
16?
Okay.
16 what? Weeks, months, minutes?
Years, actually.
Okay.
Shockingly.
16 minutes. Okay, couldn't last
Yes.
an hour. We got him. Anyway,
The doctor was cute, okay?
Oh God.
Okay. I do wonder. I'm sure there are like numbers. There are probably numbers about this.
Well, I'm
And I
sure.
would be curious. If it were the case, I don't like to make judgments based on speculation, but if it were the case that gay boys have earlier sexual experiences than straight ones, my guess is it's not because of taboos about virginity, and it's more about because culture doesn't talk about gay relationships very much, they might not quite understand the nature of what they're getting into.
Or because they're boys.
And they're boys, and they're
Yeah.
horny.
Yeah,
And-
they're
Yeah.
jerking off 24/7.
And
From
they end
much.
up in a
just
situ-
that I
Yeah.
would know, not that I've I
But I could imagine like two teenage boys doing some sexual exploration without quite understanding what it is they're doing. They're just sort of acting on impulse.
Well, I think in the teenage years they know exactly what they're doing. In terms of
That's fair.
I don't
Once
know if they know
once they're looking at-
the point of consent
Do
is that
they
they don't
realize-
understand
do
the
they realize
ramifications of it.
Right. Do they realize they're gay because of it? Sometimes.
Oh, I don't know, but probably sometimes. I think I think it takes longer to kind of come and realize that you're gay than just like he said in the previous video, having a crush on a Power Ranger when you're 4.
Right.
People have more complicated journeys than that to figure out if they're gay or not. But I mean, I think in the teenage years, kids kind of understand that what sex is. But the reason that we have the consent laws is because they don't understand the long-term consequences and ramifications of sex, and don't really kind of understand consent or exploitation or at that time.
Yeah.
It's not because they don't have a knowledge of sex. It's because they don't have the responsibility to understand it.
I guess I would say they can't contextualize it fully.
Yeah, contextualize it. Yeah, fully. But I like I said, I mean, I don't know if this really has to do with gay taboos, and then the kids thinking like, well, if there's a taboo against gayness, then I'm not going to pay attention to this taboo against virginity. I think it's probably just boys being boys, and they're gonna
Probably. Yeah.
they have hormones. Teenage years are wild.
And given that sex attraction is the socially defining element of homosexuality, this is when the straight hegemony sees us growing out of being otherwise perfectly normal boys and girls. This is also roughly the age when our little brains
Straight
begin
hegemony.
to deconstruct the concept of gender roles. So also the age when we begin to question our gender. Recently, I read a study that tracked a number of trans people and their parents. The questions asked to both parents and the children was, before coming out, how long did you notice gender nonconforming traits? Parents of children answered that they saw absolutely no indication that their child was trans before they came out, whereas the trans people themselves said that they had known about their gender identity for years, or even their entire life.
There are many ways to interpret that information. So many ways. I could think of one big one,
and that is
and that is the kids saying, "Oh, I knew it my whole life," are basically BSing it.
Post-hoc.
Yeah, I would. To a point, I think that's kind of true, because it's not like you can know it the entirety of your existence, right? I imagine it must start, at least for some people, around the time when children start to see themselves as boys or girls.
My understanding of, say, like adult trans people is by the time you're an adult and you have transitioned, most adults who have transitioned can trace those feelings very far back, pretty much their entire life. But it was also very noticeable. Parents report insistence on being the other gender, and they refuse to comply with certain gender norms. So it's a very early insistence and very consistent and persistent. I think that's the language that gets used.
Right.
Mhm.
Consistent and persistent.
Yeah, I think that's what WPATH and the other organization that has the standards
So
says.
it should be very suspicious that now we're encountering this with parents saying, I didn't see anything at all. Like, my kid never talked about wanting to be the other gender before they turned 12.
Right. I think that's. I can't help but regard that with some degree of skepticism or suspicion, just because of the implications it has in general, for
Well,
things like child psychology, gender psychology, and so on.
and also, I mean, we don't know exactly what he's talking about. Is this a study from 1 year ago where there's like 50 people that were talked to? Is this a study from the 70s where like it was 200 people? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what he's referencing. I've never quite
Does he
heard this before in
reference
all
the
my reading.
date?
No, I don't think he does. But
He said
I've
some
never
kind of
like.
number in the last 10 years or something, but I would have to.
I think Kav, you and I have done a lot of reading on this and read a lot
Yeah.
of articles and studies and listened to a lot of interviews, and I've never quite heard this before.
I have heard this kind of testimony from the dreaded ROGD
Okay.
kinds of interviews where the adolescents say, yeah, I'm trans now. I never expressed it before, but I know I'm trans. And the adults say, I have no idea where this came from. Was never talked about before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it manifests really, really quickly and is usually accompanied by
Well, in those reports, it was
social acceptance from a friend
mhm.
group.
Yeah.
They reported like a friend transitioned and then they chose to transition.
Yeah,
And
it's
all
like a
the
friend transitions and then they get a lot of support from their peer group, and then other kids start transitioning and get support from their peer group as well. That's
trans people that I've talked to in my personal life or listened to interviews on or all that kind of stuff, they pretty much as kids they were presenting and everybody around them kind of knew it.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
my age. I mean, that's like I said, I don't know how recent a thing he's pulling from.
That's been my experience with trans people as well. They've
Yeah.
told stories about like never wanting to ever play with like cars or trucks or stuff like that. It's just all dolls, just dress up, just
Or
girl stuff, really.
or just kind
Oh,
of not understanding why their body's developing the way that it is when they
oh
think that
yeah,
they should be having, other types of development and things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I heard one talk about as an inability to categorize
Yeah.
oneself in particular.
The observation here is that regardless of how we are perceived to be, we have always been here. Just because so much of this process is internal does not mean it's not happening. In the same way, we don't suddenly become gay at a sleepover. We've always been sharing affection with friends of the same gender in some way or another. However, as we mature through puberty, sex becomes an option for how we express that affection. Just because sex acts with the same gender are how the straight hegemony qualifies us as homosexuals. Just because sex acts between two people of the same gender are how the straight hegemony qualifies us as homosexuals does not mean that this is the beginning and end of what we are.
Well, that's how the two previous gentlemen in the other video we watched categorized gays as well. Just
Look,
pointing that out.
it's the first color on the pride flag.
It's sex, yeah. It's not about. It's about who we have sex with. I think that was a direct quote from that video.
Also,
But no, it's the straights. It's all the straights. It's the
can-
straights' fault.
So is it, well, you guys probably don't know. I was gonna ask about joining the straight hegemony. Like,
Yeah.
is there a club? Do I have to sign up? Do I gotta?
It's all around you,
Does-
man.
Does
You
the
can't
card,
see it.
the card come in the mail? The membership card.
It's all
everywhere.
society, man.
You get 20% off at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Sweet. Oh, I got to become straight so I get that sweet, sweet chicky nugs.
One of the misconceptions straights seem to have is due to misunderstanding of the term homosexual. They seem to read it as if the key element of being gay is sex, how we want to have it, and who we want to have it with, when in reality, sex is the common ground we share with straight people, heterosexuals. We have sex with people who we are attracted to, if we're lucky. The difference is who we are attracted to.
How lucky do you think this guy is?
Oh, I'm
Hmm.
sure
Oh,
he's.
no.
Oh,
Is-
no, I'm
is
sure he's
sure
fine.
you-
I'm sure he does well.
I'm sure the camera person is the partner at this rate.
Yeah, he's cute.
I'm sure he's
Kinda.
got a relationship going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd fix the hair if I had my
Oh
druthers.
yeah, it's a little too Nazi for me.
Yeah.
Feel free to feel
The
free to
hair,
leave
the
that at-
glasses. I do away with the glasses.
Oh,
I don't
and the
like those kind.
podium. You know,
The podium.
he's about to see Heil up there. Look at that.
You can bleed this part out if you can. You
Oh.
can leave this part on the cutting board floor if you want.
Or I could just draw a giant swastika on the screen.
Oh. No.
Oh,
You could do that.
I could do that. I'm an
He's not-
American. I can do
He's
that.
making a really good point here.
Okay.
He's saying it's not about just the sex or sex at all. It's about the attraction, because the sex is the common denominator that we have
Right.
sex. It's the attraction
Yes.
that's the difference. And I 100% agree with that. And that was
Yeah.
my main contention with the last two fuckers we watched.
Yes, I agree.
To. So no, there is no age where it's appropriate to be gay, because there is no age when we're suddenly gay when we weren't before. And saying that fictional characters are too young to be gay, I am sorry, that's homophobic. Take, for instance, the Fish Boys again. That's the one that's really gotten under my skin for some reason. You had otherwise supportive allies saying that this story wasn't gay. Absolutely not gay. No gay. But that it could be if they were a few years older. Me, a former openly gay 12-year-old from a small community no less, can't really wrap my head around the thought process. You're
So I don't know if anyone else listened to the discussion around Fish Boy movie generic Pixar fare.
I don't give a single shit about Pixar or Disney.
I
at this
have to
point.
say I didn't hear anyone repeating this line. If they were a little older, it would be okay.
Yeah, I only heard that they were mad at Disney because it wasn't explicitly gay. That's the only thing I saw. I didn't see
I
much
heard on the
pushback
other
against
side,
that.
I heard frustration with particularly straight women wanting all male friendships to be gay. That was what I heard. Like, oh, they're the two boys, they're in love. They're gay for each other. Every movie that features a male relationship gets that treatment online.
Hey, Gabbles, is there a lot of Disney culture in Norway?
No, not really. Not to the American extent, at least. I don't even think I heard of this movie before we talked
Americans
about it.
barely heard of it too, but
Oh, okay. So it's not just me.
it was not
I don't-
hated. It just wasn't very successful, I think.
Yeah.
Might be a Disneyland per capita kind of thing.
You ever go to Euro Disney?
No.
The Haunted Mansion there. Oh my God, you got to watch videos of the Haunted Mansion there. It is cool. It's
Is
so
it better
cool.
than Orlando?
They all have their own little perks. I think the best is probably Shanghai Disney. If you ever see their Haunted Mansion, it's really cool looking. Oh wait, no, not
Mhm.
Shanghai. I think they changed it to where it's goofy, but anyway, sorry.
That's all right.
The haunted,
You're telling
the,
me.
the haunted Goofy.
Haunted Goofy. Oh,
allowed
Oh,
to be
yeah,
gay,
I'm possessed
not
by the devil,
openly gay
Mickey.
for another, what, 4 years, 6
don't post spoilers of Kingdom Hearts. Don't do that.
years? Tell me the hard cutoff age for when it's okay to be gay, and I will find you someone that says it should be higher. We've got lawmakers in the southern states saying that you shouldn't be legally allowed to say that you're trans until you're 28.
Incorrect. Wrong.
Did that actually happen, or is this just another everybody on the bus clapped moment?
It literally, we have the First Amendment. You can say whatever the heck you want. What is he? No, you can say you're whatever. You can say you're a tree. You can say you're George
Yeah.
Washington. There's no law against that.
Yeah, I think I tried to Google this last time and nothing came up. Like not even like a statement from somebody. I couldn't find anything about what he was saying.
Gee, it sure would be nice if we had a source that was cited in the description of the video. Oh
Nah.
no!
Well,
Citing-
I don't know if this video is really meant to be informative in that
Look,
way.
citing sources is gay. Wait, you're right. There
Oh,
should be sources. Oh, man.
See, you didn't think that one all the way through,
I
did
didn't.
you?
I didn't.
Hmm.
I've just proven you right.
No, that argument. Because it sets up a hierarchy of sexuality. If
Your mom is a hierarchy of sexuality. Anyway.
Oh.
Oh, you know what? There
Oh.
was something I wanted to say earlier when he was talking about Luca and how he was mad that, people were saying, oh, they couldn't be gay. And, the director of the film, I think I said in the last video, he said that, it's about my experience and my friendship I built, and I'm not gay. It was just about like a friendship I built with another boy. But he later said, like, look, if people want to interpret it that way, that it's a gay relationship, I'm more than open to it. It's perfectly fine. So I don't know.
He sounds homophobic.
Yeah, he
Death
sounds
of the
super
author is
homophobic.
magical.
but that is the author coming out and saying, like, look, if you want to interpret it that way, I could see that. Go for it.
Mm.
10 is too gay, the implication is that you are straight. This line of thinking is built off of an argument which depicts straight as the default, and gay is a mutation on that default, putting
This is going to sound marginally controversial, but I guess from a biological perspective or an evolutionary perspective, it does make sense to think of heterosexual as a kind of default. Not to say that gay is a mutation. I wouldn't put it that way at all. Um, but if we're going by, the biological imperative that humans and all animals have to reproduce, to propagate their genes or whatever, then yeah, it seems like heterosexual is a kind of default. Again, purely in a biological sense. And there are some theorists who suggest that, or who argue that homosexuality is an evolutionary trait designed to keep population from designed to keep a balanced population so that there are enough females and enough males within a species or within a group of animals to actually produce enough couplings and enough offspring for the next generation. This is something that we observe, and this is always my counter to like the whole homosexuality is unnatural. It's like, well, it's perfectly natural because it's observed in mammals, in fish, in birds, in insects, in every classification of animals. You'll find a certain rate of homosexual behavior. Sometimes some homosexual animal couples even raise, abandoned or orphaned offspring or eggs, like penguins.
Usually it's difficult to observe homosexual behavior from animals in the wild, but one of the only other animals that has been studied extensively for their homosexual behavior is domestic sheep, and they found upwards of like 8% of male sheep have homosexual
wow.
behavior and mate for life with other males and do courtship for other males and
Domestic
don't even
sheep
show
are-
interest in females.
I know we're not sold on the whole mutant thing, but what if I told you you were basically sexual X-Men?
See, that's the
I'm
silver
listening.
lining to this.
I'm listening.
That's the silver lining to this situation.
Someone's buzzing. Who's getting a phone call?
Who the fuck? Oh, never mind. It's just a Benjamin Boyce premiering. Sorry, Benny.
Oh, that means my phone's probably going to go too.
all the Boyce fans.
All the boys.
The boys are back. The boys are back in town.
an age on so transness, whether it's how old you can be before you can see yourself in media, or how old you can be before coming out, is presenting a world where that is an abnormality against the natural state of being straight.
Academic agent moment.
The inorganic, what is it? The inorganic state?
Yeah,
The sound where the natural
non-organic.
law is
The
laid
natural
down.
law is laid down.
I am the law. You betray the law. Also, Danimal, how would you like to be gay Wolverine? If you're going to be gay X-Men, how would you
Yep.
like to be gay Wolverine?
First off, I want to be Colossus.
That
Nice.
is pretty gay.
That's
That is a good
that's
one.
choice.
Yeah. Or Dazzler. I just remember Dazzler from the arcade machine. Dazzler had the best area effect.
I don't know which X-Men I would want to be. I've always loved Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler's cool.
Based. Nice.
He was cute.
So-
You ever watch the X-Men
Kurt
Evolution?
Wagner.
Was it the kid series?
Yeah,
He was cute in that show. Oh man,
yeah, it was.
cute,
I
Furry.
enjoy
cute little
playing.
German boy.
I enjoy
Disgusting
playing
furry.
Nightcrawlers.
He was.
Is that an
furry.
Always
Just-
Sunny reference? How
Yes,
dare you?
yes, it is. Darkness falls and magic stirs as we become the creatures of the night.
And I realize that many straight people who argue against having gay characters in children's media may not explicitly feel this way, but this statement is built off of those homophobic beliefs that underpin their opinions, which itself is a leftover value of Christian Puritanism, which has enjoyed a fabulously prolific cultural monopoly over Europe and, by proxy, the Americas since the fall of the Western Roman Empire.
Hey, you
And
want to
yet-
hear? You want to hear? 21st century people not labeling Christians as entirely puritanical challenge. Let's go.
I was gonna
Like-
say, what other domains of the globe are controlled by religions that look down on homosexuality?
Pretty much every
Hmm.
like pretty much every civilization and at least some sects of every religious tradition either look down or like actively consider homosexuals to be an abomination, or they say it's it, or they're saying it's not as on the same level as like the union of a man and woman. Because, and historically this was kind of the case because, of course, the purpose of sex is for procreation. This is not a unique to Christianity thing. This is just a human nature thing because we didn't really have reliable birth control until the last 70 years, right? Or like 100 years if you want to talk about condoms. But anyway, this is not an exclusive. It's not a custom or practice or pattern of thought exclusive to Christianity. Also, not all Christianity is puritanical.
Correct.
Hopefully the mic picked up my claps, but like Puritanism was a small sect of very radical Calvinist influenced English Protestants. They do not represent the entirety of Christianity, be it Western or Eastern or like Oriental Orthodox or Ethiopian or whatever. Like, not all Christianity is puritanical and totally, restrictive. And I guess that this just comes from the legacy of America being in part founded by Puritans, at least in the New England area, and then like the New Englanders sort of had a hegemony over much of American society because of their industry.
A
Well-
straight hegemony.
And there's
Uh,
also there's also the like colloquial terminology around Puritan and what that means, and that's usually somebody who's very
Yes.
reserved. I think that's more what he's hearkening to
Probably
instead
more,
of
yeah, conservative, socially conservative. I do think it's also interesting now that we're in an age of not just religious groups clamping down on this stuff. We also have, say, the Communist Party in China.
Yes,
who
there was
are
an article.
exactly
Oh.
atheist, and they just passed a law banning feminine men homosexual relationships in media because they are
Wow.
very hyped up about boys acting like girls, and they kind of are down the academic agent uh,
Man.
of like, oh man, we're gonna be screwed if all we have are girly boys.
Yeah,
How-
but that's always been the way with those totalitarian
and-
regimes. I mean,
true,
the
and
the
especially when they have-
USSR.
yeah.
The USSR was like okay with gay relationships for like 5 minutes after the Bolshevik Revolution, and then
Pretty
they were
much.
And then they
considered
cracked down.
fascists.
And then
And
Stalin realized, well, we can't exactly get rid of the Russian Orthodox Church because it was, even though we're state atheist, the church was so fundamental to Russian society that he basically had to sort of work with them, and then he reinstituted sodomy laws. Yeah,
It wasn't
you know.
even hearkening to the church necessarily as much as it was just an unproductive sexual relationship that didn't produce offspring for
And it
the
does seem to be
Soviets.
what's happening in China, because China is going through its demographic crisis and panic, and so they've upped their one-child policy to now a three-child policy.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh crap, people are still not having babies, and so they banned overseas tutoring services. There's a couple of things that happen, and I personally know some people from China, so I kind of get this information. But they banned they banned overseas tutoring. They banned extensive video games for kids. They said children are only allowed to play so many hours of video games, and then now they've come out and just banned a whole plethora of girly boy, effeminate, anything that that they see as inspiring men to act like women, because they're just so freaked out.
The tomboy abs were at the top of that list.
Exactly. They're so freaked out about men and women not getting together and having babies. And rightfully so, because they're basically screwed.
There was an article that came out a few months ago stating that a Chinese court had made a ruling that said homosexuality can be classified as a mental illness in China.
Oh yeah.
And I think they pointed to some old, I think it was some sort of Neo-Confucian. I think it was Neo-Confucian, but I think it might have just been some old ruling from a previous court decision.
Well, hey,
Also-
anything against the party is potentially
Somebody's
mental
peeing.
illness. I'm not peeing. I'm pouring booze. Hold on.
Well, and even in like the
Yeah.
context of U.S. history, like I talked about Frank Kameny and his Madison Society and the Annual Reminders last time, but a lot of his early protest signs that he used in D.C. for his chapter of the Madison Society were hearkening to Cuba's treatment of homosexuals and comparing
Oh man.
that to the U.S. and saying, I think we're better than the Cubans. Like, are we really treating them the same way that the Cubans are? So it's not always just been. I mean, religion is probably the easiest one to point to because it's the most common, but it's not just religion. And like he really focuses on religion here.
Although
Britain
speaking of China, Taiwan is actually the most gay-friendly country in pretty much all of Asia. In terms of like they have same-sex marriage, they have some I think protections for LGBT people. Then they're also not communist. They're the legitimate government of China.
Taiwan #1.
Exactly. You know, Taiwan, a real country. And sort of East Asian gay paradise in a sense.
Are we gonna get flagged for hate speech for that?
Possibly. Hey,
Susan, get out of our podcast.
I'm just gonna say right now, fuck the People's Republic of China, fuck the Chinese Communist Party, and fuck Winnie the Pooh. 1989 Tiananmen Square.
Chinese Communist Party is asshole.
if you guys want to talk more, go for it. I'm gonna go take my husband's dinner out of the oven so it cools by the time he gets home.
Simp.
I'll be right back. I'm not a simp. I'm not a simp.
Yeah, he's a total simp. Anyway,
We can
enough about me. Let's
keep watching.
let's play back to the video.
Sorry.
is defined by an avid rejection of non-Christian values, specifically sex. This repulsion of sex and sexuality in all branches of life has historically set up specifically restrictive environments for women and all queer people. People who conform to Puritan values usually reject sexuality on principle, so it's exceptionally difficult to explain human sociology or science to them. And as homosexuals and bisexuals are mistakenly separated from straight Puritan values on merits of sex alone, they understand us as nothing more than sexual deviants and perverts.
the first bit of what he said, because, like he's saying, because people with puritanical attitudes project sex outright, it's difficult to explain sociology and science to them.
Yeah, I don't know what he means by that
Yeah,
precisely.
me neither.
That's a very strange thing to say. It's well, because sociology. I mean, granted, sex is part of certain fields of sociology and sciences, obviously, but like it's not. I don't think that an avid knowledge of human sexuality and eroticism is necessary to the social or the hard sciences or life sciences, like outside of say biology or sexology
Well,
or
here's
some group forms of medicine.
here's
Like,
another complication. If you asked a puritanical Christian, is it the natural state of humans? Is it the natural state of man to want to screw around with as many people as possible or to settle down with one person? What would they answer? They might well answer the former.
probably.
Say, like, the
Um,
natural state might be that. They have this doctrine of they have the doctrine of sin and total depravity probably somewhere in there. So
Yeah.
the question of natural is very complicated. So even in this claim of, oh, you can't explain science to these people, I don't know, they probably do accept some of the science.
I think if you asked, hypothetically, if I were a so-called puritanical Christian, you asked me whether it was the natural state for humans to have as much sex with as many people as possible, to want to have as much sex with as many people as possible, I would say yes, it's perhaps natural, but it's not the righteous thing to do. It's not the the godly thing, not the Christian thing to do. Just because something, and this is sort of a common, I don't want to sound like a debate bro, but this is very fallacious. It's the old natural. It's something is X is natural, therefore X is good. It's applying value judgments to something that it's applying a value judgment to a descriptive information. Like yeah, like sex is natural, therefore having tons of sex is good. Which is yeah. Just because something is natural doesn't mean that it's you know doesn't mean that you can derive a prescription from nature. It's like when someone tries to use scientific studies to make a moral claim or to back up a moral claim or moral justification. Like you would be better off making a claim from ethics or moral philosophy or something that's more suited to the claim you're making.
Right,
Because
depending. I would say depending on the claim. Some claims might actually be bolstered by scientific evidence. For instance, if you were to, in an abortion argument, the scientific facts of where life begins and when the sensation of pain begins and when consciousness begins, those might be scientific questions that could be relevant to the conversation. But then the ultimate decision of, well, is it correct or not, you really can't find that out of data. You have to take the data and weigh it accordingly.
yeah, this is kind of what I have a problem with scientism, I guess. Scientism or scientistic approaches to moral questions or to ethics, because yeah, you could use it's like trying to use moral foundations theory or something. Is it like it's like a data set, um like a set of data does not have a prescription or like a moral injunction. It just data just exist.
Uh-oh.
And they would
Are we
continue.
gonna make Aiden cry? Is that what's happening?
Well, and here's the I think a lot of people use like science as a way to not think too deeply about things because I mean I think we've all heard that like oh love is just a chemical
Mm,
and like is it though?
that's a Rick and Morty. It's the Rick and Morty quote where it's like, Morty, love is just a series of chemical reactions that causes animals to breed. Rise above, focus on science.
Yeah, and like people think they're so cool when they say shit like that. Like I think like My Chemical Romance was like the name of that band is a play off of that because they're so like nihilistic and stuff. And
It's just like it's just
No,
Reddit. It's a Reddit moment. Just
oh, go ahead, Gabbols. You got
Gabbols
something to say
knows
about
what
My Chemical
MCR
Romance?
is.
this is my emo cred showing.
Go for it.
It's from a quote from Catcher in the Rye. He's talking
Oh.
about drugs, I think.
Ooh.
Oh,
That's way cooler.
That's way cooler. Okay, I take back what I said about My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, it's better.
We're gonna listen to My Chemical Romance right now.
Oh, good God's sakes. Is that Dark Parade? Is that one of their albums?
welcome to the Black
I-
Parade. I think
I
it's
Black
think-
Parade.
called.
Okay.
I think I've heard one or two of their songs, and they're okay. I'm not gonna.
I much prefer Welcome to the Hispanic Parade.
Ooh,
It's better food.
sounds like.
Anyway,
As
what was
they
I gonna
report
say?
to
What
us
was I gonna
that
say?
sex
Were you gonna? Oh, you had something else?
Nah, fuck it. Let's keep going.
they fear and reject us, the way they fear and reject sex itself.
I fear
Mm.
and reject your mom. I'm sorry. I just I just feel the need to sprinkle a little bit of juvenile humor into this recording.
Fear and rejection. It's
I'm
very
placing a
dramatic.
ban on your mama jokes for the rest of the stream.
Oh no.
Oh no.
To that end, I realize that when audiences rush to Disney's defense to say Disney can't show the kids gay people, they are parroting centuries worth of cultural indoctrination. That said, protecting children from the gays is a relatively new phenomenon. Anti-gay propaganda has only been focused on protecting children since legal processes in society have become more secular. As we
Who hitches a ride while standing in the middle of the street?
An old thing, you know. My father-in-law used to hitchhike his way to college.
Did he
After
stand in the
that,
middle of the
no.
road and
Oh.
stick his arm out?
Did
Like,
he also
enough.
get picked up by homosexuals?
Yes. Oh yeah. And so he did raise his son. Just saying.
We
Is
have to
this-
like,
Hmm.
man, there are a couple decent riffs that people have done of Boys Beware because it's so corny and stupid.
Yeah, I think we
It's
talked
very
about
good.
it last time. We totally
Yes, you
got to
did.
watch it.
I
see-
wonder if his claim is correct. Well, here's where I think he's probably correct in that people do tend to up the whole we have to protect the children as a change ensues, or where they sense some growing threat to the status quo, which could be in the form of legalization or moves towards more tolerance. But I don't know, is it new? Is it new to worry about the children when it comes to, in particular, homosexuality? I don't know. It may have been earlier than that. I have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the history behind that, honestly, where that whole meme comes from.
Please think of the children.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
I think it, or at least, I think it kind of, to an extent, it sort of is. At least the way we're thinking about it, it kind of is a very recent phenomenon that's only been around in like the last 50 to 70 years. Ever since you had like the rise of the moral majority type of people, the Helen Lovejoys and the Jerry Falwells of the world, who try to take their try to puff themselves up by appearing like they support a moral cause. Like we have to protect society from, homosexuals and drug
Mhm.
abusers and gang violence and stuff like that. It's a similar justification for being for like tough on crime and anti-drug laws.
Yeah,
You know, where it's
I
like we
do
have to.
wonder if, though, the sort of puritanical-ish panic about low morals didn't have other occurrences in history. It would seem like the era, for example, of Prohibition, the sort of early movements probably had like similar concerns about sex.
You mean like the
Well, yeah, I mean,
like the temperance movements?
Mm-hmm.
it's, I mean, spinsters used to be like a naughty thing where they were like, oh, you don't want young women with low morals going out there.
Mm-hmm.
Gabbols, what the fuck is this?
Did Gabbols just,
What did he post?
he posted 2
What
fish
the-
sticks.
What the why?
No.
What is this?
They like fish
What?
sticks.
Actually, what? Pause this recording. What the fuck am I looking
Aw.
at?
It's good.
What
The
the
2 fish boys.
Yeah,
They're
the fish boys.
delicious.
Gabbles, I have a question for you. 2 questions.
Okay.
Number 1, did your mom drop you on your skull when you were a baby? Number 2, do you like fish sticks?
I do.
Do you like putting fish sticks in your mouth?
Yes.
Mm.
What are you, a gay fish?
Yeah. I'm Pisces, actually. So yeah.
Oh, me
So,
too.
He's put there's therefore it's okay.
Mm.
It's
See?
okay to fetish.
Well, don't you feel bad for being homophobic and ichthyophobic right now?
I do
those
think
fish.
that there's validity around thinking of how wider societal shifts do affect children, though. I mean, with the rise of social media, I mean, don't we see a higher instance of teen suicide due to, and like, eating disorders and stuff and bullying due to social media, especially with teenage girls?
Right, and I guess
yeah.
it's the logical progression. If you're going to panic about a societal shift, you're not so worried about the older people who are shuffling on their way out. You're worried about how it's going to affect the people just coming in.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to be concerned about how children view and discover their own sexuality and kind of where they fit in that. I mean, with the new stats that are out, I mean, CDC said what, like 11.57% of kids identify as the acronym, whatever they use, the LGBT, but
Right.
or
Wow.
like I saw a study that like 1 in 6 of Gen Z do, and I don't believe it. Like, I think that a lot of those kids probably are just kind of buying into a social trend and they aren't really that way. I mean, it's fine, you know, I don't see any harm in a kid saying that they're gay or bi and then later in their 20s being like, well, maybe I don't feel that way. You know, it might result in a couple awkward situations and maybe a painful breakup.
Mm-hmm.
I see more of a danger in possibly kids that are maybe seeking medicalization for, you know, mitigating gender dysphoria that they feel they have, when maybe they perhaps don't have that. I see more of a danger in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just think that the numbers we're seeing out of Gen Z are kind of indicative of, you know, maybe we do need to have a serious conversation of how promoting, you know, kind of sexual orientation in the way that we are currently is affecting the current generation. I don't see why that needs to be shut down, why that conversation needs to be shut down with thought terminating phrases like homophobia. I think it's a valid point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be inclined to agree.
We could no longer justify actions solely on what God feels is morally reprehensible. Other arguments needed to exist to justify guilt to a court of law, and from here arose the belief that we had to protect children from the sodomites, lest the child become corrupted and also become a sodomite.
See, when he says this, all I can think of is that one Alex Jones clip where he's like, "What do I do, Lord?
Destroy the child, corrupt them all."
I need to put that as my ringtone."
Simply acknowledge that it's an option, which says to me something very telling about the way European ancestors saw sex and sexuality. If someone could be corrupted to be gay simply by the knowledge that it was possible, shouldn't that suggest that our antiquated forebears understood how easy it could be for a man, any man, to slip into gay thoughts? Or women, but Historical, legal, and scientific documents did remarkably little to leave records of women when it didn't directly relate to how they affected a man's life. This,
Those
to
poor
me,
women.
suggests that, on some level, these lawmakers were aware that gay thought and actions were somehow natural.
I want to pause because I don't know. Have any of you seen those old medical procedures they used to do for women with hysteria?
That they involve like electrified dildos and butt plugs and
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yes.
one of them was you're just finger banging the lady as a doctor. It's medical.
Yeah.
Did Freud come up with those? That sounds like
Those
something
actually,
Freud would have.
those predate Freud because they first started coming out in like the 80s and the 1880s and the 1890s. And it was, and of course, you couldn't like advertise, "Hey, I'm gonna cure your hysteria by performing sex acts," but you could just say it was advertised in a very cold, medical, discreet sort of fashion. Purely for medical purposes. It's kind of like how how people used to sell like alcoholic spirits for medicinal purposes only, because it was thought that it would have, rest, like it's like the episode of I Love Lucy where she becomes the vitamin vitamin girl and she drinks that entire
Or
drinks the
like
entire
how sex shops sell poppers as VCR cleaner. Not that I would know. Not that I would know. I wouldn't know.
Oh,
I don't know what any of that is.
whoa. I don't know what any of that is. What's a sex
Good.
shop? What is that?
the less you know, the better.
Well, I do think probably those procedures worked though on those women. That's my theory. My theory is that would cure your hysteria.
Probably.
Mm.
Probably make it
Nothing
feel
like
better.
a good finger friggin' to really calm you down.
And that in order to keep people away from them, they needed a very artificial network of shutting queers out of everyday life to protect the next generation from opening the floodgates to gay. If gayness was unnatural, the human race would not have required such a stringent and organized effort to stop us from being gay. We'd just not be gay, like we're told not to be. Because there certainly isn't very much formative media that's telling us it's okay to be gay.
Except the media that tells you it's okay to be gay.
Yeah. What?
Like all
Yeah,
of it.
like the numbers I pointed to earlier, I don't think kids are being told today that it's not okay to be gay. I don't think that that's what's happening today.
Queer fear, my favorite.
Your favorite kind of fear.
I like to spread it on toast or on a bagel.
Mm.
Very, very sweet taste.
Nice.
Gay children, trans children, non-binary children, and all queer children are allowed to exist.
We're out of Dutch Angle land, finally.
You're right.
Gay.
And we have color.
It's
Day
because
is
he's making
saved.
a serious point. He wants it to be,
A serious point shot of Dutch
Serious.
Angle.
He's actually getting serious now, guys.
Okay.
He wasn't serious any of those other times, but now he's serious.
Time to get super serial.
Them need to hear that message. But consider for a second being a gay 10-year-old. You know you're gay. You've known you're gay for some time. Your parents know you're gay. But some movie critic on YouTube is saying that movie characters your age can't be gay because they're not old enough. But to this young person, they internalize the way that when society looks at them, all they see is the action of being gay. This is still the age when kids think kissing is gross, and they're already being judged by a purity squad. Consider how that internalizes this sexual shame.
Kissing is gross, though.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think most
it's-
kids
it's
probably.
true.
It's pretty gross.
I mean, there
Girls
are the kids that will go around and just kiss the girls, and they got to get talked to about it, or they'll go around and kiss the boys, and they got to get talked to about it. But yeah, I think most kids
Which
probably view kissing
one
as
of
kind of
those,
gross.
which
wait,
one
are
of
you
those were
saying-
you?
Which
Are
one
you
was
saying-
I?
Are you saying that your
well,
school didn't have a guy who didn't have a girl who would sell kisses on the playground for $5?
The
No.
early days of a e-girl.
No,
Like that
Pokemon
episode of-
did not go to my high school.
That episode of South Park.
Or no, Belle Daphne.
God.
I'm not sure which one's an e-girl anymore.
They're all e-girls. They're all online.
Even
All
you, Cobb?
women
Are you an e-girl?
thoughts.
Of course I'm an e-girl. Look at me.
All women are e-thoughts.
That's right.
Not even out of the gate, and there's a deep-seated hang-up around sex because Puritan America has passed on its fear of sex. Now, consider this same child, but in a home where their parents do not know they're gay, and where that element of
The
You
thing
guys
is,
think that-
though, the thing is, like, the fear around sex, I think he's conflating a fear around sex with a call for responsibility around sex. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that they're really pushing a fear of sex anymore. Like, there's not like, oh, you're going to go blind and your palms are going to go hairy if you're jerking off all the time. Or,
Yeah. I
You
think
know, I
nowadays
think-
I think nowadays it's more like you should learn that there are times and places to, I guess, express yourself in a sexual way, and you just have to get that part of you under control so that you can live a healthy life.
yeah, because isn't that the whole crux of the whole Me Too thing about how you're too sexualized and that you're bringing that into the workplace and maybe making women uncomfortable, all that kind of stuff. Like, isn't that what kind of the tenor of today is? Not a fear around sex, but more of a call for like responsible sexual interaction.
I'm gonna go to the
America
bathroom. I'll be
America
right
is a
back.
weird place. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say that
Very
because
strange.
America does have at least some tradition of freedom and freedom of choice, and in some senses very liberal. But I think it's true there is a deep cultural layer of prudishness compared to other Western countries.
Is that a bad thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing at all. His argument seems to be because Americans conflate homosexuality with sex, and because they are afraid of sex, that all this gets conflated together. I think that's really his argument.
Well, then maybe he should be looking at the mainstream gay media that gets applauded by a lot of the gay community, like RuPaul's Drag Race, that promotes a lot of a very sexualized homosexual culture, and maybe criticizing that
Do you mean the
instead
number
of
one
Disney.
kid show?
Yeah,
RuPaul, super popular with 3-year-olds? Is that the one you're talking
You
about?
know,
Where they
my
make
3-year-old's
dresses
favorite
for
show. Yeah.
Oh,
My
they're
kids
still
watch
making
Nickelodeon,
dresses.
and they love it.
yeah. Maybe I mean, like, I'm just gonna say it. I think a lot of gay culture is doing it to itself in terms of over sexualization. I mean, we like I said, I mean, I keep hearkening to the two gentlemen we talked about before, but their whole idea of the Pride Parade was that you should be showing off your sex gear.
Yeah.
self welcome among their family or community, and then consider if this child is trans instead, one of the most vulnerable groups of the queer community. And all the while, media constantly berates the public, saying that these are things not suitable to be portrayed to all audiences.
This framing where the poor child is being told by all these people that they're not okay, and man, you really hang your validation on what randos on TV say?
Yeah, maybe like in the 80s, but where nowadays? Give me an example where that's going on.
I'm trying
Didn't
to
he also
imagine
just-
being deeply wounded by some.
Go ahead, Gabbols.
Yeah, didn't he just cite, like, reading mean YouTube comments? Like a couple of minutes ago?
Yeah.
It's just, please someone think of the gay children. Like, he's using his own argument against himself.
Won't someone think of the
Yeah.
gay children?
The gay children hearing these horrible messages.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's a big deal, you know?
Yeah, and
Ki-
it's kind of anti-fragility. I mean, you're going to meet mean people in the world, and a lot of those mean people are going to be faceless online too.
I would
Oh, yeah.
think way more pain would be sourced from people very close to you. Like,
Yeah,
say,
absolutely.
your parents and siblings and family and people at school. It's not going to be how the media portrays you. Like, who cares about the
Twitter
media?
feed? People don't care more about their Twitter feed than their parents? Really? What?
I guess they do.
What? Strange.
This child, The messaging that they're receiving through media signals is that there's something inherently wrong with them, who they are. Queer children aren't so inherently different that they don't deserve to be able to see themselves without having to write a thesis paper on why Raya is a lesbian. Nobody.
Oh man, what's this guy
Who?
simping for movies nobody liked? What's the deal?
Raya and the Last Dragon?
Nobody liked that movie. Sorry.
Oh,
to
that's
break
the
it up.
one Lindsay Ellis was racist to Asians over, right?
Yes. Because it's the most generic. It bombed at the box office. No one watched it, but people got a simp for it
Of course they do, because
it was
Disney.
diverse, and she's a lesbian probably.
Because Disnoids.
It's got brown people in it, therefore it's progressive.
Yay.
Great.
She's got to pull those character sliders.
I love how they point, like they pat themselves on the back so much for the diverse media they make, when like things like Fast and the Furious, they don't even notice that actually has a super diverse cast. You know,
Oh shit. That's
like they never
true.
even bring up Fast and the, because you know what, Fast and the Furious doesn't trumpet that.
It just
You know?
has cars driving fast.
Yeah, it just
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
It just is. It just jams. It's a good point.
Anyway. Yeah.
Nobody's asking explicit acts of sexuality to be in a film directed at children. And contrary to popular belief, boys don't need to kiss or go any further than that in order for it to be adequate representation. Because there is more to homosexuality than sex. And if you, a straight person, or even a gay person, cannot tell the difference, please begin making steps to change your thinking. Every year, the demographic of LGBTQ youth increases. Every year, the number of adults who identify as bi or pansexual increases. This isn't an issue that's going to go away, and soon there will be an even greater demand to see these people as human beings with different social perspectives.
And someday we will have them all. Everyone will be LGBT. One day.
Everyone will be in the acronym.
And when everyone's LGBT,
No one is?
no one will be.
That's what the 2S is, right? Super straight.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Astolfo?
Show your support for super straight.
Astolfo. Yeah. I think that the LGBTQIA plus, I think the A is for Astolfo, right?
Yeah. Should be.
So everyone should show their support for super straight pride by wearing an SS band on their arm.
Oh, good idea. I'll make up
What
those.
What could possibly go wrong?
You can make it flashy, like having the two S's in the shape of two lightning bolts.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Put them on your
that
You
would
should
be-
make it. You should use an eye-catching color, like an orange or a yellow or a red, a really deep red.
Yeah, really deep red. Sounds
It really
good.
catches
and then
the eye.
accentuate it with the black. Like the S is black, and then the background can
I
be
like that
bright red.
contrast. I like that contrast.
It would be really, really nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Did
I like where you're going
Do you
with
think gays designed the swastika? Really good fashion sense.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to talk about Ernst Röhm in the essay at all, but
rather than sexual deviance. And Disney? They've gone out of their way to establish themselves as the largest producer not only of children's media, but maybe even just media in general. Disney has more cultural sway over global media than any other single institution on the planet, especially given how ubiquitous their formative material is. Disney has a hand in shaping the coming culture of this world. I'd say they have a pretty big obligation to fight back against the repressive purity values that are still internalizing shame in children.
do you think that's true?
What's the
Disney-
last movie that Disney made that had a big cultural impact?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a movie that had such a gigantic cultural impact that it's like ubiquitous, like something like a Cinderella or a Snow White, or something on that kind of level.
I want to say
Frozen was
maybe
really
Lion
popular.
King.
I guess Marvel movies, but that's not really Disney's creation.
No.
They kind of just
Frozen was
bought it.
really popular.
Frozen was very
Frozen-
popular, but what
Uh,
impact did it have on the culture?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
it
see.
didn't really have one. Like,
It
yeah, a lot
seemed
of
to
people
just
didn't see it.
reinforce typical, like, little
Like people
girls like
don't
pretty princesses.
like. I don't hear people referencing Frozen as anything other than a meme making fun of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it
I mean,
didn't
is
have the
that?
staying power.
I feel like the culture is kind of slipping away from Disney and turning away from something like a Disney.
I think every attempt Disney has made at shifting culture has failed in the last, how many decades? I don't think they've really made any shifts. They've tried to make shifts. They've done all this pandering to try to communicate certain ideas, and I think it's all fallen through. And I wonder if those are last grasps at relevance.
Hmm. Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Illogical Puritan fear of sex, and its even more illogical connection to gay people. So their active silence of the "it's okay to be gay" topic is beginning to echo louder than if they just came out condemning non-straight, non-cis identities. It's like they think they're being sneaky, but they're not. Even younger people are beginning to pick up on it.
Does that ring true too? Does that you feel that Disney is being silent on the topic of the gayness, of homosexuality, of the acronym community, the LGBT whatever?
They're playing it in two ways because they talk about it a lot, but their movies sure don't seem to have a lot of it.
Yeah, but the movies are just one component of Disney.
You're right.
You know? Like they like I see it in their other media, in their shows, their TV
That's
shows. I
true.
see it in the shorts, I see it in the theme parks, I see it everywhere else. Like the movies are such a small part of Disney now, I think.
Yeah, probably.
I
They
don't know,
own
it's
like
just
all TV channels in America, don't they?
Disney, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
No, it just doesn't feel true what he's saying to me. I can't express it. I don't have the knowledge. I'm not a Disneyite, but it just doesn't feel true based on what I've seen.
The next generation of lesbians, gays, bis, and trans people to grow up feeling normal. We need to stop putting conditions and age restrictions on their very existence.
And I'm sorry to pause again, but can I go on a rant about the normal thing for a little bit?
Yes,
Floor
please.
is yours.
So I was thinking a lot about that, about what it means to be normal and feel normal. And I know I think I say that a lot, that I wish that, like, being gay would just be something that's normal. And I think there's some road to be traveled there still, but I think we're there basically. I thought about this, in the my few decades I've spent being a person on this planet. I think feeling normal comes with maturity. I don't think that that's something that necessarily kids possess at that point. It comes with dignity, and dignity isn't something that's given to you. It's something that you give to yourself. Feeling normal, having that kind of dignity. I think that's where that kind of comes from. And it's not a feeling you can expect to be given. And yeah, I think I demonstrated, I know the history last stream, and I know the plight of gay people outside the West, and it's terrific. That's a different thing. When there's a violence inherent to a system of government and societal attitudes that you're living under, that's a different path forward that requires a different kind of fight to demand ending that. That's all undue oppression. I'm only speaking about the West when I'm saying this, but like here we are an example to the rest of the world, and that example is that gay people can live openly in society in peace with those around them, and I think we prove that. I mean, I truly think we have. And no kids, they don't feel normal inherently. No kid will ever feel normal until they kind of balance themselves, and that isn't something that's taught. That's not something that's given by a corporation or school or anything like that. I mean, that's something that can be guided towards. That's something that can be suggested, but it takes the individual to discover it. And every person has something that they don't like or they feel weird about. or feel that it makes them different, like I don't know, acne, a weird body shape. They're too fat, they're too skinny, their hair isn't great, their family isn't great. They have imperfections about their body, they have imperfections about their mind. They feel excluded by certain activities. They don't feel smart enough. It's never not going to be the case that kids feel normal, and feeling normal with imperfections, feeling normal with those imperfections. I think that comes from understanding your place in the world. And like I said, I mean, I think that just comes with maturity and just age and just growing up. And as long as we're doing this dance where we're treating being gay as though it's this extra thing like he's doing, where he chided others for doing that at the very beginning of the video, that's what he's doing. And he's making being gay this extra thing that you need to be constantly aware of and actively seeking out in the world around you, when there's nothing else like that about us that is on this kind of pedestal that he places it on. And that's what causes people to feel unease about themselves. But preserving or perseverating on what makes them different, that's horrible. Part of the acceptance movement, was asking for the acceptance from society. Yes. Another aspect of the acceptance movement was asking gay people to accept themselves. The general themes of these children's shows, from what I see, are understanding there are people different from you. I think that's a main theme that we see in all these children's shows, and you're different from them, and that's okay. And these themes he hates because they're not explicitly about a topic that he wants, about being gay. They don't require that. They don't require that to impart the values of this. And they're larger than that. People are so much more than their differences and their parts, and he wants to reduce these aspects of ourselves to these little parts, and wants kids to perseverate on the singular aspect of themselves, whether it's the sexuality or gender. And it's getting away from making people feel whole, and it's getting away from giving somebody dignity and just kind of finding out where they fit in the world around them. And that's where the feeling of normal comes from. Feeling whole doesn't come from Disney. It doesn't come from entertainment. It doesn't come from others. It comes from within yourself. It's something that you find within yourself. And we're teaching kids to seek validation instead of validating themselves on their own terms. And we should be giving them the tools. We should be laying out the tools. Validation, it's only important because it helps you interact genuinely with the world around you and build a life and relationships and seek goals in life that are larger than yourself and give you purpose. That's understanding the world is larger than you. You can't expect the world to give you that. You can't expect the world to give you that feeling. You have to give that feeling to yourself. And that's something you build from raw materials on your own. We can have the tools available, and they are, but it's up to the individual to pick them up and use them to build themselves. That's normal. That's what feeling normal is, I think. I don't know.
I think that's exactly right. And you talking about that made me think about, and I believe I had thoughts about this last time, thinking about whether these kinds of stories, whether their purpose should be normalizing, whether that's really the right. It seems there's been a shift in the purpose of narratives lately, especially for children. There's this push that every story for children has to be about normalizing something and comforting and confirming something, when I think historically children's stories were aspirational. They were peerings into the future or an alternate reality where there was some magic or some power that they could possess. They could go on an adventure and they could go and conquer difficult, terrifying situations. It was sort of the encounter of those things. And now it's all about comfort. It seems like a big split in where stories used to be, and now it's all just telling kids they're okay the way they are, when it used to be stories were all about pushing out.
And when you're teaching kids to seek comfort in the world is not a comfortable place. They're not going to find that comfort. They're going to be at unease with the world their entire lives if you're setting them up with that expectation.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think that raising a child in a purely comfortable environment makes them worse off as an adult. Because if comfort is all they know, they're going to have a much worse time on their own when they're more than able to take care of themselves, when they're adults who can work and have mature friendships, but they're going to be intellectually and emotionally stunted. They won't have any. They'll be stunted because they've never known hardship, like genuine hardship. I'm not talking like there's a pixel out in the corner of my laptop screen, or I don't have the right kind of bills to get a snack from this vending machine, or first world problem type shit. I'm talking like they won't understand what it's like to be, you know, alone or isolated from everybody else, to not have a single genuine, person to rely on because they've never made any friends, because all they know, everything was given to them. They won't know how to forge, you know, their own personality, their own friendships, their own relationships with other people that they can trust. They won't be able to have a stable family. And they won't and that's because they won't be able to better themselves because everything was given to them. Because they lived a life of comfort. It's
The-
just not a good it's expecting to find a world that is comfortable. Raising your kid in an environment where that's promoted is tantamount to setting them up to fail, or it's like basically, yeah, it's setting them up for complete and utter failure. It's like the plane exploding in the hangar before it takes off.
Hey, anybody else? We're almost done. We only got like 2
No,
minutes.
my blood pressure's up. I'm very upset.
And it starts with us, the audience, deciding that we're not going to tolerate this clear cultural division between straight and everything else. This isn't a phase. It's not a condition. It's not a choice. And it's not a development. We're never going to be able to be who we are if everyone else expects us to be what they're afraid of.
Oh, he was proud
I don't
of that line.
understand that.
He was proud of that
no,
line. Look at that.
I bet you like is just thinking to himself, man, I got it right so good this time.
Yeah.
He
Also,
talked.
Expect them to be what they're afraid of.
He talked about the division of culture between gay and straight, and it's like I don't see that from quote unquote straight culture. I see that more from gay culture being like, look, we want to delineate this from quote unquote heteronormativity and bullshit like that. That's what I see. Like I don't know. He's to make these kinds of points, he's criticizing the wrong crowd.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, I think that's
But let's play that last line again, because I just do not freaking understand that at all. What he said with that last line.
We're never going to be able to be who we are if everyone else expects us to be what they're afraid of.
What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know.
How does it relate to Disney and gay kids and all of this? It feels like he was going for a sort of emotional impact.
We'll never
Like,
be
at the-
who we truly are if
They expect
people.
us to be what they're afraid of.
What?
So if straight people expect gay people to be perverts, gay people will never be able to be who they are.
Okay.
For representation, maybe? Like,
So then don't be perverts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Pretty much.
There's that.
Talking to the two guys in the last video still.
Oh no.
Stop being perps.
Stop being perverts. Pervert! I
Excuse
guess that's
me.
what he meant.
Kink is part of my identity.
Yeah, okay.
Kink is who we are.
I'm
Also,
sad.
kink invented gay. Don't
Right,
forget.
it's the it's
Oh,
the
yeah,
bedrock.
that's
It's the
true.
foundation.
It's the bedrock.
Yeah, the foundation.
Should we get those two and this guy in the same room and watch them fight?
Oh, I think he would vehemently despise those two.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I like that we got kind of a guy that's on. I mean, they're still swimming in the same waters in terms of the progressive whatever ideals, but I think if you were to put these two and they had an honest conversation, those two and this guy, I think that they would disagree on a lot.
All right, so there we go. We made it. And in a lot less time than the other one. I think we recorded like 3 and something hours of that first.
Now, are you sure that this time it will actually save and we won't have to do this
Well,
again?
the recording says it's been running for an hour and 40 minutes. So it's been recording that long. So it's
Okay.
definitely recording.
That's
and
good.
if we're ready,
Almost 2 hours.
if we're
almost
ready, I
2.
can stop recording and
Alright,
Everybody
well.
get your racial epithets out
Yeah.
right now.
And Gabbols, you got
Yep.
any closing statements?
closing statements. Let's do it.
No. We will not go quietly into the night. I don't.
Are you making fun of my? That was my rant. Are you making fun of my rant?
No, your rant was beautiful. I loved it.
Okay, good.
His was a paragraph, and it didn't even make sense. I was just like thinking, does he think straight people watch Rocky Horror Picture Show and like gay people like Frankenfurter? I
Wait,
don't
they're-
get what he means.
They're not? I'm so confused.
I mean, they are. Some.
That's hot.
It is hot. Fishnets.
Ooh, boo.
Tennyson, you have any closing thoughts on this video?
Kill me.
Okay.
Great.
Death.
But in all seriousness, I can't really say because it all just seems like it all just seems like a weird jumble, especially at the end. Like especially with that closing statement, which feels like it was just going for an emotional conclusion. And I find that like going for the emotional conclusion often means you leave crucial parts out of the crucial aspects of an argument or a thesis out of whatever you're concluding. And I fail to see how like that the I fail to see how the closing statement relates to Disney specifically with regards to gay kids because it seems like he started off actually talking about Disney and gay kids and then he just sort of went off on a broader tangent about society in general. So I can't really say much more than that.
A tangent that's just not reflective of the reality that I see.
Yeah, it's just not cohering, I think, with reality in general.
Yeah.
Or like Disney's business practice at all.
Right.
Yeah, absent it is missing many important components.
Yeah.
It doesn't discuss the business model. I don't think he took very seriously the demographics of the situation. The first half of the video, he talked about how, oh, it's just this small segment of prudes. And man, I don't know. I think when it comes to kids, most people are very conservative about children. Even people who might be generally forward thinking or tolerant even.
I'd like to add there's something wrong with that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, it's an old saying, everyone's conservative about what he knows best. Well, I think that, like, children, I think, are the one thing that everybody is sort of conservative on when it comes to what to expose to them, or what to expose them to, or what to show them, or give them, or let them play with. For good reason too, because kids are um impressionable. Kids are impressionable, and I think it would be good to inform kids at some point that some people are attracted to people of the same sex, and that's perfectly okay, right?
And he's acting like kids aren't exposed to that. I think they're exposed to that. I think the contention is if they're being exposed to it in a very clumsy way with a very clear sort of political bent behind it as well. Because a lot of the gay is okay stories that kids get told or that are in the mainstream media paint people as villains in the story as well. And the villains in the story, I I mean, I don't think that it's a story that requires villains to let kids know that this aspect of life exists and that maybe this might be something that they're feeling. You kind of get the what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think that's a lot of the contention behind it. Not necessarily that it's just. I think that probably is that some parents just like, look, I don't want anything gay around my kid. But I think it's also that people are like, I don't trust this corporation to educate my child on this very sensitive topic.
Yeah. I think many
And I think
parents
that's
probably
fine.
suspect that corporations have uh, they have a ulterior motive,
Yeah.
or
Oh yeah.
or they have an agenda,
And
in
rightfully
presenting
so.
it. And it's like, yeah, they kind of do. So
Corporations
no
have done everything they can over the past decade to tell us that they have an agenda and ulterior motive. I mean, why would you not think that now with something like this?
Explicitly true, too.
Hmm. Yeah. So I mean, I don't blame parents at all for pushing back against something like I don't want Disney to handle this either. I don't think that they're the right people to handle something like this.
It
I think
sounds
it's
like a
something
job
that's
for the
best.
parents, really.
Yeah, I think it's something that's best explained by parents to children, because
Yeah.
parents know their kids. Parents, well, should know their kids' limits, what a kid is or isn't emotionally ready to handle. You know, it's like and this applies not just to LGBT stuff, but it applies to really the world in general. Like, most of a child's knowledge about the world, if it doesn't come from like him just exploring, should come from his parents. I think who need to sit him down and tell him about some things so that he understands, and understands and is able to trust his trust that understanding, and learn more about the world in a way that doesn't make him fearful or suspicious or neurotic. Does that make sense?
It
Yeah, like
does.
media should be
Yeah.
like a secondary source. If
Yeah,
anything.
and plus nobody wants corporations to take over the role of parent, except of course for the corporations themselves. But I think we can safely disregard what they think.
Well, I don't know. Maybe this guy would be happy if corporations were the parents.
Oh, he would.
Yeah, that's kind of what he's getting at.
As long as the corporations are pro-gay and the parents are anti-gay, I think he would solidly say the corporations are a better fit. But yeah, I guess for me, this video was, I don't think necessarily the thesis is incorrect. It's very bogged down with a lack of detail of things that I think are important to consider. So, for instance, the international market. I also think just overall it felt like a grown man whining about cartoons, and I'm just predisposed to dislike such things. So
It's probably because you're homophobic.
oh, that's true.
Yeah, incredibly so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm late for my flight to Milo's Camp No Homo, so
Oh, okay. Well, good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it. You know, it's gonna be fabulous. I can't wait.